Act 3. Scene 1. Scene: the Crèmerie. Evening of the same day. The gas is lighted. Madame Catherine is sitting beside the buffet. Adolphe at a table. Madame Catherine. Such is life, my dear Monsieur Adolphe. But you young people are always demanding too much, and then coming here and moaning about it. Adolphe. No, it's not like that. I don't reproach anyone, and I'm still fond as ever of both of them. But there's something that makes me rather sick. You see, I was so much attached to Maurice, yes, so much that I wanted him to have everything that would make him happy. But now I've lost him. It hurts me more than the loss of her. I've lost them both, and so my loneliness is doubly painful. But there is something else too which I am not quite clear about. Don't brood so much. Work can find things to do. You can even go to church, for example. What should I do there? Oh, there's so much to see. And then there's the music. That at least is not banal. Possibly not. But I don't belong to the fold because I'm not devout. You see, Madame Catherine, faith is undoubtedly a gift, and one that so far I have not got. Wait then till you do get it. But what is this tale I've heard today? Is it true you have sold a picture in London at a very high price and won the top award? Yes, it's true. But good heavens! And you haven't said a word about it. I'm afraid of good fortune. And anyway, it's almost worthless to me at this moment. I'm afraid, in the way one is of ghosts. It's bad luck to speak of having seen one. You always were a strange fellow. No, madame. But I have seen so much bad luck follow on good, and I have seen how in misfortune one always has true friends, and in success, only false ones. You asked me if I ever went to church, and I didn't give you a straight answer. I did go into St. Germain's this very morning, without quite knowing why. It was as if I went to look for someone to whom I could offer silent thanks. But I didn't find anyone. Then I put a gold coin in the poor box. That's all I got out of my church going. And it was pretty banal. It was something, at least. It was good to think about the poor when you were in luck. It was neither good nor bad. It was just something I did because I couldn't help myself. Something else happened to me in the church, too. I saw Maurice's friend, Jeanne, and his child. Struck down, crushed by his triumphal chariot. It was as if they bore the whole weight of his past misfortunes. Well, my child, how you come to terms with your consciences, I don't know. But that a decent person, a kindly, conscientious man like Monsieur Maurice, can throw over a woman and a child in the twinkling of an eye. Explain that to me. I can't explain it. And he doesn't seem to understand it himself. I saw them this morning, and it all seemed to them so natural, so right that they couldn't imagine things otherwise. It was as if they were enjoying the satisfaction of having done some good deed or performed some sacred duty. There are things we can't explain, Madame Catherine, and therefore it is not for us to judge. Besides, surely you saw how it came about. Maurice felt the danger in the air. I had a premonition. I tried to prevent their meeting. It's really as if an intrigue had been woven by some invisible power, as if they had been driven by a trick into one another's arms. I'm certainly disqualified in this case, but I don't hesitate to pronounce the verdict. Not guilty. And now, look. To be able to forgive as you do. That's religion. Good heavens! Am I religious without knowing it? But you see, to let oneself to be driven, or tempted into evil like Monsieur Maurice, that's either weakness or wickedness. And if you feel your strength failing, then you pray for help and you get it. But he didn't do that. He was too stuck up. Who's this coming? Oh, I think it's the Abbe. Adolphe, what does he want here? Enter the Abbe. Abbe. Good evening, madam. Good evening, monsieur. What can we do for you, monsieur l'Abbe? Abbe. Has Monsieur Maurice the author been here today? No, not today. There's this play of his on the theatre, and that is probably keeping him busy. Abbe, I have bad news to give him. Bad in many respects. Dare I ask what kind of? Yes, there is no secret about it. His daughter, by Jeanne, born out of wedlock, is dead. Dead? Adolphe. Marion dead? Yes. She died suddenly this morning, without any previous illness. Oh God, who can tell thy ways? The mother's despair calls for Monsieur Maurice's presence, and we must try to find him. And now, a question, in confidence. Was Monsieur Maurice known to be fond of the child, or was he indifferent to her? Did he love little Marion? Monsieur l'Abbe, we all know how he doted upon her. Abbe, I'm glad to hear it. As far as I'm concerned, that doubt is dispelled. Madame Catherine, has there been a doubt? Unfortunately, yes. An evil rumor has been running round the courtier that he had abandoned the child and its mother in order to go off with a strange woman. In a few hours, this rumor had developed into definite accusations, and the feeling against him has now reached such a pitch that his life is threatened, and he is being called a murderer. Oh God, what is all this? I will tell you my own view. I am convinced that the man is innocent of this charge, and that the mother is as sure of this as I am. But Monsieur Maurice has appearances against him, and he will not find it easy to clear himself when the police come to interrogate him. Have the police got hold of the matter? Yes. The police have to be prepared to protect him from the evil rumors and the people's anger. I believe the commissaire is on his way here now. Madame Catherine, to Adolphe. You see what happens when a man can't tell the difference between good and evil and flirts with vice. The Lord punishes. Adolphe. Then he is more merciless than man. Abbe, what do you know about this matter? Adolphe. Nothing much more, but I can see how it happened. Abbe. And understand it too? Not yet, perhaps. Let us look more closely at the matter. Here is the commissaire. Enter the commissaire. Commissaire. Messieurs, madame, I must trouble you for a moment with some enquiries about Monsieur Maurice Gerard, who, as you have probably heard, is the object of the hideous rumor which, by the way, I don't believe myself. Madame Catherine. None of us believe it either. Commissaire. That strengthens my own opinion. But for his own sake I must give him a chance to defend himself. Abbe. That is good. And he will surely find justice, hard though it may be. Commissaire. Appearances are terribly against him, and I have seen innocent people mount the scaffold before their innocence was discovered. Listen to what they say at him. The child, Marion, left alone by her mother, was secretly visited by the father, who seems to have chosen the hour when the child would be alone. A quarter of an hour after the visit, the mother returned and found the child dead. This is a serious situation for the accused. The post-mortem shows no signs of violence, nor any trace of poison, but the doctors affirm that there are newly discovered poisons which leave no trace. To me, this visit seems a coincidence, and I am well used to those. But worse was to come. Last night Monsieur Maurice was seen at the Albergue des Autres with a strange lady. The conversation, according to the waiter, turned to crime. The plaster raquette and the scaffold were mentioned, an unusual topic of conversation between lovers of good breeding and position. However, this could have been, and we know from experience that people who are short of sleep and have been drinking a good deal tend to dig up the worst from the depths of their souls. More serious still is the evidence of the head waiter from the champagne breakfast in the Bois de Boulogne this morning. He states that he heard them wishing the life out of a child. The man appears to have said, "Better if it had never existed," to which the woman replied, "Yes, but it does exist." And later in the conversation came these words, "The other one would kill ours," to which the other answer was, "Kill? What a thing to say!" And "Our love will kill everything that stands in its way." And then, the 5 of diamonds, the scaffold, the plaster raquette. All this, you see, is hard to explain away. And so finally, is this foreign journey planned for tonight? These are serious matters. Adolf. He is lost, Madame Catherine. It is a horrifying story. What is one to believe? Abbe, this is not the work of man. God have mercy on him. Adolf, he is caught in the net and will never get out. Madame Catherine, why did he let himself get into it? Adolf, are you beginning to suspect him, Madame Catherine? Madame Catherine, yes and no. I can no longer have any opinion on the matter. Hasn't one seen angels turn into devils in the twinkling of an eye and then become angels again? Commissaire, it's an extraordinary business. However, we must wait and hear what he has to say. Nobody is condemned unheard. Good evening, messieurs. Good evening, madam. Exit the commissaire. Abbe, this is not the work of man. Adolf, it certainly looks like the work of demons for a man's undoing. Abbe, it is either retribution for hidden sins, or else a fearful test. Enter Jeanne, wearing mourning. Jeanne. Good evening. Excuse my asking, but has Monsieur Maurice been here? No, madame. But he might come at any moment. Then you haven't seen him since... Jeanne. Not since this morning. Please accept my sympathy in your great sorrow. Thank you, madam. Ah, you are here, father. Yes, my child. I thought I might be of some help to you here. And it was fortunate, as I was just able to have a few words with the commissaire just now. The commissaire? He doesn't suspect Maurice too, does he? No, he does not. Nor do any of us here. But appearances are terribly against him. You mean, because of that conversation the waiter overheard? That means nothing to me. I've heard the same sort of things before when Maurice had had a few drinks. It's his habit then to speculate on crime and punishment. Besides, it seems to have been the woman he had with him who made the most dangerous remarks. I should like to look that woman in the eyes. Adolf, my dear Jeanne, however much that woman may have unintentionally done you, she has no evil purpose at all. She just followed the dictates of her heart. I know she is good and could look anyone straight in the eye. Jeanne, your judgment in this matter is of great value to me, Adolf, and I believe you. So there is no one I can blame for what has happened but myself. Yes, it is my heedlessness that now has to be punished. She weeps. Abbe, do not reproach yourself unjustly. I know you, and how seriously you took your motherhood. That this responsibility was not sanctioned by the church and civil law is not your fault. No, here we are facing something different. Adolf. What? Abba. Who can say? Enter Henriette in travelling dress. Adolf rises resolutely and goes to meet her. Adolf. You here? Henriette. Yes. Where is Maurice? Do you know? Or don't you? I know everything. Excuse me, Madame Catherine, but I was all ready for the journey and had to come in here for a moment. Henriette and Jeanne stare at one another. Emile is seen in the doorway of the kitchen. Henriette to Jeanne. I ought to say something, but I don't know what because whatever I say will sound crude or mocking. But madam, if I ask you quite simply to believe that I share in your deep sorrow, as much as anybody closer to you does, you must not repulse me. You must not, for I deserve your pity, if not your forbearance. Henriette holds out her hand to Jeanne. Jeanne gazes at her. I believe you now, but in another moment I shall not believe you. Jeanne takes Henriette's hand. Henriette, kissing her hand. Thank you. Jeanne draws back her hand. No, don't. I don't deserve that. Abbe, forgive me, but while we are all gathered here in harmony, so it seems for the moment, won't you shed some light, Mademoiselle Henriette, on the uncertainty and darkness surrounding the main point of this accusation? I ask you, as among friends, to tell us what you meant by what you said about death and crime in the Place de Raquette. We are all convinced that these words had no connection with the death of the child, but it would relieve us to hear what that conversation meant. Will you tell us? I can't tell you. I can't. Adolphe, tell us, Henriette. Say the words that will bring peace to us all. I can't. Don't ask me that. Abba, this is not the work of man. To think that this moment had to come. And like this. To Jeanne. Madam, I swear that I am not guilty of your child's death. Is that not enough? Jeanne. It is enough for us. But not for justice. Justice! If you knew how true your words were. Abba, to Henriette, and if you understand what you said just now. Henriette, do you understand it better than I? Yes. Henriette gazes at the Abba. Have no fear. For even if I guess your secret, I will not betray it. For that matter, human justice is not my concern. But divine grace is. Maurice enters hastily in travelling clothes. He does not look at the rest of the company in the foreground, but goes straight to the counter where Madame Catherine is sitting. Maurice. Madame Catherine, you are not angry with me for staying away. Anyway, I have come now to ask you to forgive me before I start south at 8 o'clock tonight. Madame Catherine is too much taken aback to speak. Then you are angry with me. Looks round. What is all this? Is it a dream or isn't it? Yes, I see it is real, but it looks like a wax tableau. There is Jeanne like a statue, all in black, and Henriette like a corpse. What does this mean? Silence. No one answers. Then it means something terrible. But please speak. Adolphe, you are my friend. What is it? Indicates Emile. And there is a detective. Adolphe, coming forward. You know nothing then? Nothing. But I must know. Adolphe. Well then. Marion is dead. Marion? Dead? Yes. She died this morning. Maurice to Jeanne. And that is why you are in mourning. Jeanne, who has done this to us? Jeanne, he who holds life and death in his hand. But I saw her well and rosy this very morning. How did it happen? Who did it? Somebody did this to us. His eyes seek Henriette. Adolphe, don't look for the guilty one here, for it is no one here. Unfortunately, the police have turned their suspicion in a direction where there should be none. Maurice, where is that? Well, you must know that your reckless conversation last night and this morning has placed you in a light that is anything but favourable. Were they listening to us? Let me think what it was that we said. It's true. Yes, then I am lost. But explain your thoughtless words, and we will believe you. Maurice, I can't. I will not. I shall be sent to prison, but that's nothing. Marion is dead. Dead, and I have killed her. General consternation. Adolphe, think what you are saying. Weigh your words. Do you realize what you said? Maurice, what did I say? You said that you had killed Marion. Could anyone believe that I am a murderer and could kill my own child? Madame Catherine, you who know me, tell me, do you believe it? Do you believe it? I don't any longer know what I believe. What's in the heart, the tongue will speak. And you have spoken evil words. She does not believe me. Well, but explain yourself. Explain what you meant by your love would kill everything that stood in its way. Maurice. I see. They know that too. Henriette, will you explain that? Henriette. I can't do that. Abba. Yes. There is something wrong behind all this. And you have lost our sympathy, my friends. Just now I would have sworn that you were innocent, but I cannot do that now. Maurice to Jeanne. What you say means more to me than anything else. Jeanne, coldly. First answer this question. Who was it you cursed during that orgy out in the bois? Maurice. Did I do that? Perhaps. Yes, I am guilty, and at the same time guiltless. Let me go away from here, for I am ashamed, and my misdeeds are greater than I can forgive myself. Henriette, to Adolphe. Go with him, or he will do himself harm. I? Who else? Adolphe, without bitterness. You were nearest. Hush! There's a carriage. Madame Catherine. It's the commissaire. I have seen a great deal of life, but never would I have believed that success and fame were such brittle things. Maurice, to Henriette. From the triumphal chariot to the police van. Jeanne, simply. And the ass drawing it. Who was that? Adolphe. That was clearly me. Enter the commissaire with papers in his hands. A summons to appear at the prefecture immediately this evening for Monsieur Maurice Garrard and Mademoiselle Henriette Mauclair. Present? Maurice. Is this an arrest? Commissaire. No, not yet. This is only a summons to attend in person. Maurice. And after that? One does not know. Maurice and Henriette moved towards the door. Maurice. Goodbye to you all. Everyone shows emotion. The commissaire, Maurice, and Henriette go out. Emile enters and goes up to Jeanne. Emile. Now, my dear sister, I will see you home. Jeanne. And what do you think about all this? The man is innocent. Abba. But in my view it is and always will be despicable to break one's promise, and unpardonable where a woman and child are concerned. Emile. I should certainly be inclined to feel the same as you now, as this concerns my sister, but I am unfortunately prevented from casting the first stone, because I have committed the same offence myself. Abba. Although I am innocent in this respect, I still cast no stones, but the act condemns itself and is punished by its consequences. Jeanne. Pray for him. For them. Abba. No. That I shall not do. For it is presumptuous to wish to change the counsels of the Lord. And what has happened is surely not the work of man. Scene 2. Scene. The Auberge des Atres. Evening of the following day. Adolphe and Henriette are sitting at table where Maurice and Henriette sat in Act 2, Scene 1. Adolphe has a cup of coffee in front of him. Henriette, nothing. Adolphe. You really believe he will come here? Henriette. Without any doubt. He was released this morning for lack of evidence, but he did not want to show himself outside until dusk. Adolphe. Poor fellow. You know, life has seemed quite horrible to me since yesterday. And what about me? I'm afraid to live, scarcely dare breathe, scarcely dare even think, as I know someone is spying not only on my words, but on my thoughts. Adolphe. So you were here that night when I couldn't find you. Yes, but don't speak of it. I could die of shame when I think of it. Adolphe, you are made of other and better stuff than he and I. No. Yes. And what persuaded me to stay? I was lazy. I was tired. His success bewitched me. I can't explain it, but if you had come, it would never have happened. And today you are the great one and he the little. Least of the least. Yesterday he had 100,000 francs, and today he is penniless, and his play has been withdrawn. He will never be cleared in public opinion, for it will condemn him for his infidelity as severely as if he were the murderer. Anyhow, the most considered option is that the child died from sorrow. So he was the cause of its death.
Adolf, Henriette, you know my opinion. But I should like to be sure that you are both completely innocent. Won't you tell me what your terrible words meant? It can't have been just some idle chatter on such a festive occasion to talk so much of killing and the scaffold.
It wasn't idle chatter. It was something that had to be said and something I couldn't talk about. But I have no right to appear innocent in your eyes, for I am not innocent.
I don't understand.
Then let's talk about something else. Has it ever occurred to you that there are many unpunished criminals at large, even among our intimate friends?
How so? What do you mean?
Don't you think everyone at some time in his life does something that would be against the law if it were found out?
Yes, I think that is so. But no misdeed remains unpunished, at least by conscience.
He rises and unbuttons his coat.
And nobody is a really good human being who has not erred. For to know how to forgive, one must have needed forgiveness oneself. I once had a friend whom we called a saint. He never spoke an ill word about anyone, forgave everything and everybody, and received insults with an extraordinary kind of satisfaction which we couldn't explain. At last, late in life, he told me his secret in a word. I am penitent.
He sits down. Henriette regards him silently in surprise. Adolf continues as if to himself.
There are crimes not mentioned in the criminal code, and they are the worst ones. For we have to punish them ourselves, and no judge is so severe as oneself.
Well, this friend of yours, did he find peace?
After years of self-torture, he attained a certain degree of peace, but life never held any pleasure for him. He dared not accept any mark of distinction, and never felt he deserved a kind word or well-earned praise. In a word, he could never forgive himself.
Never. What had he done?
He wished the life out of his father. And when the father suddenly died, the son imagined he had killed him. These imaginings were taken as symptoms of sickness, and he was put into a home, from which after a while he emerged cured, as they say. But he still had a sense of guilt, and so he continued to punish himself for his evil thoughts.
Are you sure an evil will cannot kill?
In a mystic way, you mean?
If you like. Let's call it mystic. In my family, I am sure that my mother and we, brothers and sisters, killed my father out of our hatred. You see, he had a terrible way of systematically opposing all our likes and desires. And where he found any real vocation, he tried to uproot it. And so he roused an opposition that became charged with hatred. And in the end it grew so powerful that he pined away, was neutralized, lost his willpower, and finally wished himself dead.
And your conscience has never reproached you?
No. For that matter, I don't know what conscience is.
Don't you? Well, you will know soon.
How do you think Maurice will look when he walks in here? What do you think he will say? Do you know, yesterday while we were waiting for you, he and I tried to make the same sort of guesses about you. We guessed completely wrong.
Can you tell me why you sent me that message?
Malice? Recklessness? Sheer cruelty.
Strange. The way you recognize your misdeeds but don't repent them.
It's surely because I don't feel fully responsible for them. They're like the dirt left by all things one handles during the day and that one washes off at night. But tell me something. Do you really think as highly of human nature as you profess to?
Well, we are a little better than our reputation. And a little worse.
That's not a direct answer.
No, it's not. But will you give me a direct answer when I ask you? Do you still love Maurice?
I don't know until I see him. But at this very moment I feel no longing for him, and I think I could live very well without him.
I think that's quite likely. But you are chained now to his fate.
Hush, here he comes. How everything repeats itself. Just the same situation and the same words as yesterday, when it was you who were expected. Maurice enters, white as death, hollow-eyed, unshaven.
Maurice. Here I am, dear friends. If this be me. For last night in the cell has changed me into another person.
Gazes at Henriette and Adolphe.
Adolphe, sit down and pull yourself together. Then we can talk things over.
Maurice to Henriette.
Perhaps I am de trop.
Adolphe, don't be bitter towards us.
Maurice, I have grown evil in these 24 hours, and so suspicious that I shall soon have to go my way alone. Anyhow, who wants to keep a murderer company?
Henriette, surely you've been cleared.
Maurice, picking up a newspaper. By the police, yes, but not by the public. Here you see the murderer Maurice Gérard, once the playwright, and his mistress, Henriette Mauclair.
Henriette, oh, my mother, my brothers and sisters, Lord Jesus, help us.
Do you see? I really do look like a murderer too. And it's also hinted that I stole my play. So not a trace is left of yesterday's conqueror. And in his place my rival, Octave, appears on the playbill. And it is he who will collect my 100,000 francs. Oh, so long, so long. Such is fortune, such is fame. You were lucky, Adolphe, not to have had any success so far.
Henriette, oh, but don't you know? Adolphe has had a great success in London and won the top award.
Maurice, no, I didn't know. Is that true, Adolphe?
Perfectly true.
But I have refused the award.
Henriette, pointedly. That I didn't know. Are you debarred from accepting distinctions, like your friend?
My friend?
Oh, yes, yes.
Maurice, I'm glad of your success, but it makes a gulf between us. I expected that. I'm bound to be as lonely with my success as you are with your adversity. To think that one's good fortune should hurt others. Life is appalling.
During the following speech, 2 men in civilian clothes enter unnoticed and sit at the table in the background.
Maurice, you say that. And what am I to say? It's as if a black veil has been pulled over my eyes and changed the whole shape and color of life. This room is like yesterday's room, but it is quite different. I recognize you both, it is true, but you have new faces. I'm searching for words because I don't know what to say to you. I have to defend myself, but I can't. And I almost miss my cell, which at least protected me from those curious glances which pierce right through me. The murderer Maurice and his mistress. You don't love me any more than I care for you. Today you are ugly, clumsy, empty, repellent. Adolphe, come, pull yourself together. That you have been discharged, cleared of all suspicion, is bound to appear in some evening paper. That will put an end to all the accusations. Your play is certain to be put on again, and at worst you can write a new one. Leave Paris for a year and let the whole thing be forgotten. You who exonerated human nature will be reinstated yourself. Human nature! Adolphe, have you lost your faith in its goodness? Yes, if I ever believed in it. Perhaps that was just a mood, a way of thinking at things, a courtesy to wild beasts. If I, who was held to be among the better ones, can be so utterly base, how vile the others must be. Adolphe, now I'm going out to buy all the evening papers. Then we shall certainly have a basis for new points of view. Maurice, turning. 2 detectives. That means I am released under surveillance. so as to give myself away by careless talk. Adolf, they aren't detectives. That's just your imagination. I recognize them both. Begins to go. Don't leave me, Adolf. I fear Henriette and I may come to open explanations. Be reasonable, Maurice, and think of your future. Try to calm him, Henriette. I shall be back in a moment. Exit Adolf. Henriette. Maurice, what do you think now about our guilt or guiltlessness? I have not murdered. I only talked a lot of hot air when I was drunk. But it is your crime which walks again, and you have grafted it on me. Is that the tone you're taking? Was it not you who cursed your own child, who wished that it did not exist, and wanted to go away without farewells? And was it not I who begged you to go and see Marion, and pay a visit to Madame Catherine's place? Yes. You are right, forgive me. You were more humane than I, and the guilt is all mine. Forgive me. But at the same time, I am guiltless. Who has tied this net out of which I can never escape? Guilty and guiltless, guiltless and guilty. This is driving me mad. Look. They're sitting over there listening. And no waiter cares to serve us. I shall go and order a cup of tea. Do you want anything? Nothing. Exit Maurice. The first detective approaches Henriette. Detective. Let me look at your papers, young woman. Young woman? How dare you? Dare? I'll teach you, you tart. Whatever do you mean? Prostitutes are under my supervision. Well, yesterday you were here with one man. Today with another. That amounts to prostitution. And unescorted ladies are not served here. So come along, follow me. My escort will be back in a minute. Nice kind of escort. Hardly a protection for a lady. Oh, God. My mother, my brothers and sisters. Don't you realize that I'm of good family? Fine one, I'm sure. But anyway, the evening papers have made you famous. Come along. Where to? Where am I to go? To the bureau, of course. To get a little card, a license which obliges you to have free medical attention. Jesus Christ, this can't be true. Detective taking her arm. Not true, eh? Henriette falling on her knees. Save me! Maurice, help! Hold your tongue! Don't struggle, damn you! Enter Maurice, followed by the waiter. Waiter. Gentlemen of your kind are not served here. Pay and get out and take your tart with you. Maurice desperately searches his pocketbook. Maurice. Henriette, pay for me and let's get away. I haven't a sou on me. Henriette looks in her purse. Waiter. So it's the lady who pays for her Alphonse. Alphonse, do you know what that means? My God. I haven't any money either. Why doesn't Adolf come back? Detective. What a damned pack of people. Get going. Leave something to security. Women like her usually have their fingers covered with rings. Maurice. Is it possible that we have sunk so low? Henriette pulls off a ring and hands it to the waiter. Henriette. The Abbe was right. This is not the work of man. Maurice. No. It's the work of the devil. But if we leave before Adolf comes back, he will think that we have deceived him and slipped away. Henriette. That would be in keeping with the rest. Anyhow, it's the river for us now, isn't it? Maurice takes Henriette's hand as they go out. Maurice. The river. Yes.